What's up, everybody? It's Miles Turner, the Indiana Pacers. You're listening to the Paceroos Podcast. Be sure to follow @Paceroos on Twitter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Paceroos Podcast, the only Australian NBA podcast with a bias towards the Indiana Pacers. And we're pretty somber. It's 0-2 against the Miami Heat. Lost the first two games of the series in a 7-game series. Tough to come back from that. We all said that it was likely that Indy wouldn't win this series, and unfortunately, we've been proven correct, probably even more correct than we would have liked to be. Twitter's a really dark place. Alex, you've jumped off Twitter for the time being, which I think is a good call. There's a lot of negativity out there. I'm going to start with you because I know you didn't get a lot of sleep last night. 3 a.m. start time for the game. You're a committed fan. Do you feel like the Pacers showed your commitment the respect it deserved in Game 2?
Adam, I think you're going to have to do some editing on this episode, mate, because you're going to have to be bleeping some things out, I'll tell you that much. Honestly, that is one of the most disgusting things I think I've ever witnessed, man. Like, you pull an all-nighter to watch your team play, and, yeah, look, Sabonis is out, but that is disgusting what I witnessed today. The perimeter defense, I've talked about it all year long. That is, like, it's just simple basketball. Like, Jimmy Butler's driving in the paint. Why are you helping off of their best three-point shooters? Goran Dragic is looking like Klay Thompson out there. Duncan Robinson looking like Steph Curry. We're making these guys who aren't good three-point shooters look like they're Reggie Miller, and then we can't score on offense. So it's just dismal. And honestly, yeah, like you said, I can't be on Twitter because it's just too much negativity, man, and probably rightfully so, honestly. Like, Pacers don't deserve any positivity right now.
Well, that's the show for today, guys. It's been fun. No, I can't agree more with a lot of what you said there. I think I didn't get up at 3 a.m., but the one thing that struck me was, everyone was talking Duncan Robinson after the game, and, Goran Dragic obviously torched us, but they were wide open. We were giving them, like, space to shoot. Like, where was the defense? We weren't respecting their shooters, which, like, that's what Duncan Robinson does. He shoots. So read the scouting report. I just don't understand it. I think it's been very tough to watch the last couple of games, even on replay. And Justin, it's very hard to be positive about almost anything to do with this team, with the way that they've played the first two games. We played behind the first two games. I mean, we kind of stayed in it. They've been quote-unquote honourable losses on the scoreboard, but we've never looked like it, have we?
Nah, I'd say there was a little period during Game 1 I thought, maybe we could squeak out a win. I think we had it tied in the fourth quarter, but you always knew Miami's run was coming. I'm the same as you guys. Like, we hate to be negative on the show. We've always preached positivity and, looking on the bright side of things. But
it's 0-2. It's 0-2.
It's 0-2. Like, there's no going around it. We've looked awful, and like everyone's mentioned, I just don't know. Like, the offense, it's just one-on-one basketball. It's like we're James Harden. Like, every player's James Harden. There's no offensive structure. It's like, yeah, you're just switching, and then like Brogdon's just dribbling, then pulling up a three.
Yeah.
And
you know what I'm going to say? I just want to jump in here. It was Stan Van Gundy actually brought this up on one of the calls. It wasn't even a Pacers game. He was talking about the Thunder. And he said they looked like they were running a drill, which is called the shell drill, where essentially players can't dribble or can't move. They just have to – they just stand there, like 4 players standing there on the perimeter while one player does something. That's what it was. The Pacers are running essentially a shell drill every possession, and we don't have players that can do that. So,
well, yeah, why? It's, Miami have good lockdown defenders. You'd want to move as much as possible against Miami. And, I think the most alarming thing out of 2 games is Jakar Sampson has scored the most points off our bench. Now,
yeah,
that's an issue.
We said it in the first bubble game against Miami that the bench was thoroughly outplayed by Miami's bench. They didn't look good, and the bench were one of the keys to keeping us in these games and giving us an opportunity to be able to win. And that hasn't happened. But I mean, a lot of this has to go on the starters. A lot of this has to go on the fact that the starters are being thoroughly outplayed by their opponents. I mean, Bam Adebayo is thoroughly outplaying Miles Turner right now. Jimmy Butler is thoroughly outplaying both Victor Oladipo and TJ Warren right now. Goran Dragic is thoroughly outplaying Malcolm Brogdon in game 2. Game 1, Brogdon was probably the shining light in the team. So overall, when you've got it's simple, when your best players don't play as well as their best players, you will lose. And I don't know if it's talent. I don't know if it's execution, as Nate has said after game 1, which I think is a bit of a cop out. But I'm very concerned at the talent disparity, even with Sabonis out, because even with Sabonis out, this team has looked good in stretches and has been able to put points on the board. Has been able to shoot. He's been able to play hard defense. Hard defense has been, a hallmark of the team all season. And I mean, game 2, 109 points, game 1, 113 points. It could have quite easily been 2 double-digit victories to Miami, and that flattered us, to be honest, with how we played. It should have been a lot more than that.
Well, I hate to be negative, but what do you guys think? I think if Sabonis is playing, I think we're still having the same conversations right now.
Well, Bam Adebayo had 7 points on 7 shots today, and they still won by almost double figures. Yeah. So, I mean, even if Sabonis is playing, if he has a decent game, they win. I don't think Sabonis is saving this team. There's just so many. They're just outplaying us in literally every single facet.
Yeah, and we've talked smack about Jimmy Butler versus TJ Warren, but credit where credit's due. Jimmy Butler has thoroughly outplayed TJ Warren and Victor Oladipo. He's been the best player on the floor both games. He's come to play. He's playing extremely well. He's playing like an all-star, and it's really discouraging to see guys like Oladipo and Warren surrender to a Jimmy Butler when all of the build up and all of the conversation and etc. Jimmy Butler's thoroughly outplayed them, and that feels really bad as a fan, because all you want is competitive, hard playing players, especially when you've been called out like that. And so far in the bubble, TJ Warren had 3 good games, and we all went nuts as we should. It was brilliant, but Justin, since it's been back to, it was like a week. It's like he bought his NBA 2K boost for a week, and then they ran out. We're back to square one again.
Yeah, it's I don't even know what to say really. It's just I didn't think coming into the bubble they looked really good in the regular season, but just this playoffs, it's nearly been one of the 2 worst games I've really seen all year. They just look terrible. And you mentioned about the Jimmy Butler and TJ Warren kind of smack talk. Well, I hate to be rude, but Pacer fans can't say anything anymore.
No, nothing.
Jimmy Butler has killed us, and so there was something on Twitter today saying Jimmy Butler is 9-0 against the Pacers in his last 9 matchups. So he has completely destroyed us, and he can talk as much smack as he wants on the court because he deserves it. He deserves it. If we were up 2-0 and TJ Warren was dropping 30 points and getting breakaway steals and dunks, we'd all be talking and throwing shade at the Heat fans. So yeah, that they're within their right. I want to get both your opinions on, because I don't know if you saw the post game press conference with Oladipo saying it's still a series. This series isn't over. Although I know he's got to say that, I'm not going to kick someone while he's down. But
yeah,
there was no confidence in what he was saying. I was just like, I've come from watching The Last Dance where Michael Jordan's like, you still got to come through Chicago, and you're just like, oh man, that's like, it's going to be hard to beat Chicago. And then Oladipo's, his demeanor was just awful. He thinks this series is over. I don't care what he says.
Yeah. Are we witnessing the last week of Victor Oladipo's Indiana Pacers career, Justin?
I hope not, but I mean, we were all messaging about it earlier today that you can't, if some, God forbid, let's hope we don't get swept. Let's hope we turn it around somehow, but you can't get swept 2 years in a row without major changes in the first round. Don't care about injuries. Don't care about anything. It just, changes have to happen. And Oladipo, do you guys remember how much we loved Vic in that Cavaliers series a few years ago?
Yeah.
Remember when we got kicked out of Game 7 and he texts his trainer like, I'm coming back tomorrow morning. I'm putting in work to be a superstar. Where is that Oladipo? Like, he just seems so disconnected from the team.
He's checked out.
Yeah, do you think that, Alex?
100, he's checked out. Like, he looks terrible. What was he, like 5 from 15 today or something? And he's turned the ball over. I think he's averaging like 6 or 7 turnovers a game. Like, he looks like he's just mentally checked out of this season. And like, you question sometimes. Like, I saw today people were questioning why he's even playing. I mean, obviously, I'm glad that he's playing, but man, like, he doesn't look like he's giving it 100% on either end of the floor. And also, I just don't know why. Like, Nate McMillan, you have to make adjustments. If you're going to keep getting killed on both ends of the floor, you cannot tell me that Edmund Sumner wouldn't be better out there than most of these guys that are getting cooked on defense. Like, why is Edmund Sumner getting DNPs when their best guards are dropping 20+ a night and Edmund Sumner's arguably being your best defender? I just don't get it. So,
yeah, it's been tough 2 games, and I think on Victor Oladipo again, I think there's real cause to believe that he's on his way out over the summer. It certainly seems like other circumstances where you see players are, not necessarily going through the motions. I'm not saying that he's not giving what he can out there on the floor, but he's clearly more tentative. He's clearly not necessarily as comfortable as he was before the injury. And, maybe it's a 2-year injury. But he's certainly not really, aside from his words, which, he's saying what he needs to say, to your point, Justin, he hasn't really given me any confidence that he wants to be in Indiana long term. And I think if a sweep happens, you're right, it means that the team wasn't together, wasn't determined to win. It means that the team spirit is for some reason broken, and they weren't able to pull together to even get that game 3 or game 4 consolation win to make it a gentleman's sweep. And I think there's a lot of pressure on the coaching staff to try and extract that victory over the next week, because I feel like there will be a casualty of a second sweep in 2 years. I don't know whether it's necessarily an Oladipo trade. I don't know whether it's a trade of another player that we'll probably talk about in a few minutes. But it does seem like a sweep, Alex, would cause a significant change here.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're Kevin Pritchard, you extended Nate before the playoffs. You made that decision. You made the decision that you wanted to keep this guy. Not long term. I mean, it's a season. I know that's not longevity or anything, but I'm saying you made the conscious decision to extend him before you saw what we did in the playoffs. I mean, if you get swept, even without Sabonis, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and go, what are we doing? Like, we're paying multiple guys, almost 4 guys, $20 million a year. Oladipo is going to be wanting the max. Like, you can't be paying these guys that much money to get alone lose in the first round. You can't even pay them to lose in the first round, let alone get swept. So, yeah, I think you're right. KP has to do – if we get swept, he has to do something.
Okay. It's time to talk about Miles Turner. And I'm not going to go too hard on Miles. He does the intro to our show. We appreciate everything he's done for the community around Indiana. We appreciate all the work that he's done. But Miles Turner hasn't looked very good in the bubble. He hasn't looked very good this season. We've given him the benefit of the doubt. We've defended him. We've had entire episodes devoted to defending Miles. And between, I take this right back to international play. He looked like a boy amongst men in the World Cup. He's looked like a boy amongst men at times this season, particularly in this series. We've talked about how when Miles has a bad first quarter, or when Miles has a bad 5 minutes at the start of the game, that will influence his entire game. And unless we see the maturity of approach from Miles Turner, he will not get any better than he is right now, is what I'm going to say. He's still a young guy. He's still got the potential to get a lot better. But my thinking is that unless he shows some more maturity to be able to break through to the adversity that he faces against good centers like Bam Adebayo. You look at Bam Adebayo, there's a killer. There's a guy that, gives his all, that leads on both ends. His whole approach to the game is that he's a leader out there on the floor and he's going to kill his opponent. I haven't seen that killer instinct from Miles, and maybe it doesn't exist. But even if it doesn't exist, you want consistency and you want effort. And Justin, I can't say that we've had those things out of Miles.
Yeah, it's tough because, all three of us are his biggest fan, and we've kind of defended him to the hill against most of Pacer Nation all year. But game one was probably the first time I've really felt like, wow, like you've really hasn't shown us much, Miles. If there's one Pacer I want to succeed more than anyone, it's Miles Turner. He's our longest tenured player for everything he does for the fans. He's a great guy. Obviously, him and Alex do work together, and he does the intro to our show, like you mentioned.
There's no doubting it. No doubt it. Great person, great community member, a type of guy you want on your roster.
I was so frustrated when they had a switch and they had a small man guarding Miles Turner in the paint, and he couldn't make a move. He post him up, draw a foul, do something.
It's been guarded by Jimmy Butler in the post.
Yeah, it's like everyone's like, oh, Miles needs to shoot more threes. Well, I'm like, well, no. And Nate McMillan even mentioned it post-game. I think he had a small dig at Miles, was saying when there's a switch and Miles has a small, we need to make a play. And that's true. I know Nate McMillan's not perfect. He's been terrible this series. I defend Nate to the hill. Nate McMillan has been terrible in the first two games. But yeah, Miles, I don't know. After game one, I'm glad he played well in game two. He shot the ball well. Where's the Miles Turner that used to lead the league in blocks? He used to be a force down there. People used to be scared to drive and get to the hoop. There's just nothing anymore. I'm really disappointed.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, we had Thaddeus Young last season, and Thad's a really good defender. So, you had obviously one of the best defensive teams in the league. And, you can say that TJ Warren isn't the defender that Thad is, and you'd be right. But Miles is still the same guy. He's if anything, he's a year older, a year wiser, and entering his physical peak as a human being. I just don't see it at the moment. Right now, Alex, and I know, we said, full disclosure, you've done some work with Miles and we've all been his supporters, but it's getting harder to defend him, isn't it?
I don't know, man. Not for me. I don't know. Obviously he struggled offensively in game one, but personally, he was the only player that even showed up today. 17 points, and I've said this long before, man. Why is he attempting one shot in the fourth quarter? He was 7 from 8 from the field today. He made that shot on Kelly Olynyk in the fourth quarter. Didn't attempt a single fucking shot after that. Why? That's my biggest thing for him, is that Nate McMillan subs him out after he makes 2 threes in the second quarter, and then you don't get him a shot in the fourth quarter. So I think he needs to do a better job attacking the mismatches for sure. But, man, you can't find rhythm in, firstly, a system that doesn't really want to use you, but secondly, a system that when you get going, one every few games, you're not getting shot attempts. Vic shooting 30% today, Brogdon shot, 29%, Warren was missing. I mean, yeah, so I think it's a bit of both for me. Obviously, game one, he was pretty terrible on offense, but he showed you a lot on game two, and these guys were taking tough shots. Why is Brogdon attacking an ISO on Bam Adebayo instead of passing it to Miles in the corner? I don't know. So I think it's a bit of both, man.
Yeah, it's a good point, and there's one thing that it could be that isn't an injury, and that is that he's not being set up for success. And we've talked about that for a lot of the year. We've mentioned that Nate doesn't necessarily use him in the way that it was first prescribed that he'd be used. He was told to work on his post-game during the summer, and he came back and was told that he'll be playing outside and Sabonis will be playing inside. So, Justin...
Well, what's his ceiling? What is Miles Turner's ceiling? Let's say, forget Pacers and we're using him wrong, we're doing, Sabonis, all that. If he goes to another team, what do you two think Miles Turner is?
What is he putting up? I think, how many points, how many rebounds, how many assists? I think, the Miles that I would be afraid of is that sort of 18 points, 8 rebounds, 3 blocks sort of a guy. And I think that's what you would think that he would be capable of putting up if another team used him properly, which is, a sort of 90% of Kristaps Porzingis or 85% of Kristaps Porzingis in terms of what his production could be if used the right way.
Look, I think all three of us agree. We know Miles can improve. We know he can get better. I think where we defend him because a lot of fans think he's the problem where, if we just trade him, we'll be better.
Yeah, it's very true.
That's not the case. Like, Miles isn't the biggest problem on this team. Can he get better? Yes. He's played pretty poorly this year, but he's not the issue with this team. There's a lot more issues with this team. And, it's interesting. Obviously, with the draft lottery today, I saw some Pacer fans commenting, we should offer, Miles and a pick for a, number 2 pick or whatnot. So it throws up further. Golden State's going to want to get out that number 2 pick. Is that something Pacers look into? Who knows?
Yeah, I think I'm sticking with what I said. I think he can be, on the right team, utilised the right way, he can be 85% of what Kristaps Porzingis gives Dallas. Not quite the all-star level, not quite the second option, but I think he can be a very solid contributor offensively and defensively beside, a rebound-oriented player that can play outside and give him some space to operate. It's interesting that the New Orleans name was thrown around the last draft. Apparently that was something that was offered. Alex, is that a good fit besides Zion? When we talk about possible destinations for Miles, have you would have put some thought into this, I'm sure. Do you have any that you want to throw up that, where he would potentially be utilized better?
Well, not because of Zion. I don't think personally, that would be a good fit for the front court, but that's not the reason he would work in New Orleans. The reason he would work in New Orleans is because of Lonzo Ball. He hasn't played in his entire career with a point guard that's averaged more than maybe 7 assists a game. Like, he's always played with either a combo guard like George Hill or Brogdon, or he's played with a guy that is just not really known for his passing, like Darren Collison. So I think Lonzo Ball would absolutely get the most out of him, especially in the pick and pop, and Zion would take a heap of attention as well. So, yeah, if we're looking at destinations, New Orleans would be like easily a top three for him.
And to your point, if we were to say who is the best player in the league aside from, the top line all-stars that Miles Turner could be beside that would utilize him properly, I think Ben Simmons is right up there. I think, a guy with that court vision, a guy that can attack the rim, a guy that needs shooters around him, that can block shots, that can get steals. I think Ben Simmons and Miles Turner would be just one of the scariest defensive combos that I can think of in the league. And
Philly are definitely going to be making some moves in the offseason, that's for sure. We're very doom and gloom right now being Pacer fans, but you look around the league and there's a lot of fans. If we recorded this morning, a lot of Laker fans think they might be out in the first round. Milwaukee just lost to Orlando. Philadelphia are on the verge of getting swept. And think about being a Philly fan. They've tanked for years for this, to get Embiid, to get Simmons, to trade for Butler, Redick, then to lose them, to get Tobias Harris. Like, they've gone through pain, Philly fans. So I know it's tough being a Pacer fan right now, but you look around the league, New York Knicks got number 8 pick today. Like, there's a lot of pain going around a lot of franchises.
Yeah, there definitely is. And look, I don't know whether we're in any position to make any sort of trade aside from Victor Oladipo, and I don't know what currency that Victor has. But, I think a sweep means that you have to explore this sort of thing. And the frustrating thing for us is that it's sort of this push and pull of Sabonis, Turner, and obviously Nate is on the side of Sabonis. He uses Sabonis extremely well. He made him an all-star. So it just seems the further you get down the track, the more that it's either going to be a Nate and Sabonis old school ground and pound sort of grit and grind team, or it's going to be Miles Turner with no Sabonis, with a coach that can, run and shoot threes. And it seems like there's a philosophical difference there that that's going to have to be explored eventually. I don't know. Nate's got an extension. and Miles seems to be the odd one out. I'm the last person that wants to see Miles traded. I think if he was utilised correctly, he'd be brilliant. But I don't see another way out. Even if we were to trade Victor Oladipo, would we give Sabonis and Turner another 12 months? Alex, is it worth giving them another 12 months if we moved Oladipo?
Well, funnily enough, they were playing their best basketball together
without
right before the
Oladipo.
restart. So, geez, that's tough. Well, I mean, it just depends on, again, what you get back in return, doesn't it? So, I mean, if you get a stretch 4 in return for Oladipo, then you have to move Mars, right? Or even if you get a 3, you probably have to, because then Warren's proved that he can play that small ball 4. So, yeah, I don't know. Well, it's definitely a tough hypothetical.
Yeah, and we know that forward is obviously the major position of need for this team. But I mean, I don't know what currency Oladipo has around the league right now. I don't know what teams would be willing to take a 1-year gamble on him to be able to make the playoffs and make a run. We know that Brooklyn and Miami have been thrown around, but with how he's looked since he's come back, right now we're not getting a Karis LeVert in return for Victor Oladipo. Right now, we're probably not getting a Duncan Robinson because Duncan Robinson has looked so good in the playoffs. Now, that's hard for Pacers fans to hear, but right now, that looks like the reality. Could we get the last 3 years of Drew Holiday's contract for 1 year of Victor Oladipo to give New Orleans some cap relief to be able to go after someone else? Maybe, but it'd take more than just Victor Oladipo to get that deal done. So, it's we're running out of options, I think. And I think we thought at the start of the season we were an embarrassment of riches with what KP had assembled. And now it's kind of looking like the opposite, Justin, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because there's been some positivity to this year, but then the last 2 games are kind of just blown everything. Like, obviously, we've all watched Pacers for years and years and years, and I nearly can't remember a playoff series. I remember last year was a bit like Celtics were always going to beat us. But I've watched Pacers series where they've gone down 2-0 and I've still been confident. I've still been like, come on, like win game 3 and then you can tie this thing up. I have zero confidence, and judging by the 30 or 40 people who responded to the Paceroos tweet this morning, there is zero confidence. No one has confidence in this fan base. And you know what? I can't blame them.
Rightfully so. Yeah.
Yeah, rightfully so. Like, it's crazy. Yeah. I just can't see us in 5 days having this conversation and we're like, oh, wow, we're 2-2. Who would have saw that coming? I cannot see it. Zero confidence. And I hate to say it, but there's more likely than a sweep than us winning 4-2. And just while I'm on it as well, Pacers always preach, oh, we want to be a hard out. We want to be a hard out. And it always grinds my gears because you don't want to be a hard out. You want to win the series.
Favorite.
Yeah. You stop saying, oh, we want to be a hard out. If we go out in 7 games, we made that team aware of us. It's like, no. But it's like, well, you're not even practicing what you're preaching. You're about to be swept 2 years in a row.
Embracing mediocrity at its best. We want to be an honourable loss. That's ridiculous. Yeah. We've talked so much about, tank versus mediocrity across the year. And you look at the draft lottery today, as you said, Justin, and, whilst at the moment, I wouldn't trade our last 5 years for Chicago's last 5 years or Minnesota's last 15 years. At the very least, as a franchise, you go into a draft with a little hope when you've got a top 3 pick or a top 4 pick. And after 2 sweeps in a row and no first round pick and the assets kind of not being worth as much as they were 6-12 months ago, there's not a lot of hope right now for long term. We've talked about how 2021 is our season. We've really got to prove it in 2021. But there's no new players coming to Indiana over the summer that are going to be of any significance. We haven't got a lot of cap space with what we've got committed to Oladipo, Brogdon, Turner, Sabonis, Warren. I mean, there's your cap almost as it is. The cap's not going up. We just lost 4 months due to a pandemic. We just lost 4 months of ticket sales due to a pandemic. Cap's not going up, guys. Like, we are where we are. We're at best, we're getting a veteran or a mid-level exception or somewhere around there. But even then, what's that going to do? Is that going to push us across Miami? Is it going to turn it from a 4-0 series to a 4-3 win for us or a 4-2 win for us? Is it going to flip an entire series that we get swept in?
I think that's what frustrates so many Pacer fans I talk to, and that's the mediocrity. We're just that 5th to 8th seed every year, just treading water, and that's why I never have a go at Larry Bird about the Andrew Bynum trade. Yes, it's stuffed up Roy Hibbert's mental, and could have cost us going further.
He went all in.
We've mentioned this throughout the year. Like, I will never have a go at Pacers if they just go for a home run, go for a swing, do what Toronto did with Kawhi Leonard. Yes, it's not always going to end up in a championship, but I will go to bed knowing, hey, Pacers actually went all in, put their chips in and said, we're going to win. We're going to try and win the championship instead of, we want to slowly build. We want fans will lose us if we're bad. Like, just go all in once.
Yeah. And that wasn't even really all in. Like, the Bynum stuff was a fairly low risk move. Didn't have wide-ranging cap implications or pick implications or any of that sort of stuff. And even the Granger-Turner trade didn't have that either. They were both, Turner was a free agent. So, I just look at it and think, when I don't think we'll ever make a move that will be that high risk that it could put us back 2 years, or it could propel us to the NBA Finals. I think that's the move that Pacers fans would at least say, oh, you know what? We had a crack. We gave it a go. Like, we did a Toronto. And you can talk about small market and revenue, et cetera, but like, you're in the NBA. This is not a cupcake league. This is not you're making money. You're making some cash. So splash some cash every now and again. When's the last time we were significantly over the cap? When's the last time we paid the tax? Who knows? And I think all of these feelings kind of resurface on a yearly basis in the playoffs when we get bounced, because we're always there, which is awesome. But then we get bounced. We talked about it. It's rare to be a Pacers fan and be mad in August. You're usually mad in April because you're usually getting bounced in the first or the second round, or if you're lucky, the conference finals. And it's a unique situation in the bubble, but it's certainly sorted out who are the most professional, well-coached, well-drilled, executed teams in the league. Indiana is not one of those teams, Alex.
No, you guys literally hit the nail on the head, both of you. I couldn't have said it better, man. And, I agree with that. I think the Pacers, you get to a point where you just have to go, what are we doing, man? Like, what are we spending, $90 million on a starting lineup for if we're just going to get bounced in the first round every year? Go out and try to get someone massive. I know you can't sign LeBron James or Kevin Durant in free agency. We're not asking that. We're just asking that you make a move that says that you want to win a championship now, not that you want to win a playoff series. A move that makes us actually believe that you want to win a championship.
Well, that's what I respect. Philadelphia, it hasn't worked out for them, but they've tried. They have tried. Tobias Harris, they've tried everyone like that. Obviously, we spoke about Toronto. Now Brooklyn have gone on KD and Kyrie. Like, there are teams in the Eastern Conference. Even Miami going to splash in free agency next year, and who wouldn't want to play for them at this point? Like, they've got the money, they've got the location, but they'll get a star player next year. There are the top 6 or 7 teams in the East, bar the Pacers. Add Boston to that. All their draft picks they've got. Danny Ainge did a terrific job of rebuilding their franchise after winning a championship. Why aren't the Pacers in that echelon? Like, why? We haven't had a top 10 draft pick since 91 or something. Like, it is ridiculous. Like, Pacers are always successful. I was talking to my mate the other day saying, like, who would you rather be, Detroit or a Pacer fan? And I said, well, Detroit have won a championship in our lifetime. Pacers haven't.
Yeah, I was about to bring up Detroit and Milwaukee. Detroit made the Rasheed Wallace trade, and at the time it was a fairly high-risk, low-reward move, and it paid off and won him a championship. Milwaukee just gave Chris Middleton $180, $200 million And he is definitely not worth $180, $200 million, but they had to keep Giannis, because Giannis is a generational about to be a multi-time MVP, about to be a defensive player of the year. And, you know, they suffered through mediocrity. They drafted Bogut first. That was a bad move. But, you know, little dig at Bogut for you, Justin. But, you know, we've got teams that, even though they're in small markets, they've tried. They've had a crack. They've tried trades. You know, the Thunder lucked into Durant, New Orleans lucked into Davis, and then Zion. But they did that through the draft. You know, all these teams, most of these teams, aside from Milwaukee, who got Giannis like 13th, 14th in the draft, have lucked into it on draft picks.
Well, just quickly, I know we've got to wrap up soon, but yes or no, do you guys see KP making a significant change in the offseason?
I think one of the starters will be traded in the offseason. I'm not sure who it'll be, but it'll be Oladipo or Turner.
Alex?
No, you City. What are you?
Geez, it's, yeah. One yes, one no. I'll sit on the fence. I don't know. I hope he does. But I don't think he will.
Show us you want to win, guys. Just show. That's all. Look at, you know, we've talked about game 1 and game 2. We've got limited time left, but all we can say to the Pacers for game 3: show us you want to win. Give us a performance that we can be proud of. Give us a performance that can make us consider that next year is going to be better than this season. This has been the Paceroos, guys. Good luck in game 3. We love you, Pacers. We just want to see effort.